Hello, it's Chastity White Rose again. And today I want to talk about my entire work history and how I faced some discrimination. And here's what I mean. Now, I'm not talking about discrimination because I'm transgender. No, I'm talking about before that. You see, when I turned 16, I knew I was of legal age to work a job, but unfortunately, I couldn't get anyone to hire me. And I know people will think I'm lying when I say I couldn't get anyone to hire me, because people think jobs are easy to get. But in my circumstances, it was not easy. Because first, you have to understand that although people didn't know always know I was transgender, people knew I was autistic. I mean, people can tell because I'm socially awkward and I've always been a little weird looking. But there was also the fact that I did not go to a public high school. And I was homeschooled ever since moving to Lee Summit. So I was homeschooled through all the way through high school. I did learn my subject. My mom taught me well, and she had used a lot of curriculum that she was able to obtain. But because I didn't have a high school diploma, and because I wasn't in a government recognized institutional school, there was no proof that I was educated. And so they never gave me a chance. And I remember I was filling out tons of applications. Now, this is back in the day when companies actually had paper applications. This is before everything was online. Like, it was starting to happen where applications were going online, but back in those days, most places would give you a paper application. Plus, that's good because I didn't have internet access at the time when I was a teenager. But anyway, the point is, I applied for Taco Bell, McDonald's, Burger King, Burger Boy, back when that was a thing, which later turned into Taco Bell. Before Taco Bell and Lee Summit was even built in that location. We're talking when I was 16, 17, 18. And you know what happened is I got very, very discouraged. And so the first technical job I got was when I joined the Navy, because I wasn't able to get even the horrible fast food restaurants to give me an interview. I would apply and they would say they would call me. They never did, and I couldn't even get an interview with any of them. But then the Navy recruiter came along and talked me into joining the Navy, which I did because I'm like, hey, I need a job and I've already been trying for 4 years. I was 20 years old at the time. So that's kind of how I got suckered into joining the Navy when I was 20 years old. So obviously the Navy didn't work out. I didn't survive boot camp, and there's a whole story there of me being sent to the VA hospital and all that. But the first official job that I actually worked, I didn't obtain until I was 25 years old. And that was for Hy-Vee. I got hired in October of 2012. And I was just reminded of that because I was talking with my HR manager at that store today. But yeah, so I got hired at Hy-Vee and Lee Summit in October 2012, but you have to keep in mind that was the third time I had applied. Now, keep in mind, the first two times I had applied, I didn't hear anything. I didn't get a call. I didn't get an email. I had no communication. And there's probably some people who apply that they probably just ignored me, especially because when someone just looks at, an application and they see that I write homeschooled for the schooling, that most people just dismiss that. They just completely dismiss me and assume that I know nothing because I was homeschooled, which is offensive to all children who were homeschooled and all parents who homeschool. Homeschooling is legitimate in some cases, and it depends on the quality of the materials that you're teaching, and also depends on the quality of the parents who are homeschooling. It's totally legit, and I will defend the right to homeschool till my dying day. I will tell you that. But my applications probably didn't look very impressive on paper. So, You might wonder, well, how did I actually get hired for Hy-Vee? And I've always wanted to tell this story. I don't think I ever have before. But I actually, after applying the third time, I went to customer service and I begged them to tell me who I talked to about working at that store. So here I was going to the Hy-Vee grocery store and begging for a job. And I told them, hey, I will work for free and volunteer for a while to prove I can work. And that's what I had to do. I had to be very persistent and to even get an interview. But I got an interview. I got questions asked to me. They finally looked at my application that I had already submitted previously that month. And the HR manager, and I'm not afraid to say her name, Andrea Moore, was the one who first gave me my very first job at Hy-Vee. And I worked at that store until 2019. From 2012 to 2019, I know my entire work history. I worked from October of 2012 to September of 2019. And the reason I quit working at that store at that time was because I had moved to Independence, because I had gotten the full-time job with Brilliant. And of course, they screwed me over. I had a knee injury and I couldn't do my job, and they basically fired me, but I quit, sort of that sort of situation. But then, of course, I went to Hy-Vee at a different store. That's what happened, and that would have been in 2021, I believe it was. It was April 2021. I started working as a courtesy clerk at the store in Independence. And that's what I've been doing, for the past, actually, it hasn't been that long. If you think about it, it's really 1.5 years at this point, I guess. But, so I haven't been at this store that long, but I started in the floral department. I've been doing great. And now everyone in this town knows me. But the circumstances being what they are, it currently looks like I'm going to be transferring to work back at my old store I originally started with. And I'm super excited about that. And the reason I'm excited about that possibility is because I never wanted to leave that store in the first place. And had they hired me full-time back then I never would have left. I left Hy-Vee so I could get a full-time job that would pay me enough money to live on my own. And I did. But when I lost that job, I lost the income, and now I am losing this apartment. So in October, I'm going to be going back to live in Lee's Summit with my mom. That's just the way it's going to be. And I'm going to, work Hy-Vee and possibly another part-time job on top of it to make sure I get enough hours and earn enough money for me and my mom to start having an actually comfortable financial life. Because I grew up poor and I've been poor most of my adult life. I had a brief period while I had the full-time job with Brilliant that I made enough money to pay my rent and bills and even save a couple $100s each month. Because I made enough money and I worked my butt off too. And so the reason I'm recording this video about my work history is because I want people to understand that, first of all, if you can't afford to live and you end up homeless, it's not your fault necessarily, because companies don't want to hire full-time, and it's hard to get full-time work. It's hard to get companies that pay enough. So it's just hard to survive in this economy with the expenses being way beyond the money you're making. So I'm a victim of bad circumstances and bad decisions by companies. That's what it comes down to. But I know it's not my fault that I'm in this situation, and I'm going to continue to fight and make the best of it. But the simple fact of the matter is that I'm 35 years old. I don't have a full-time job, and I have to go back and live with my mom. Now it's gonna go good because my mom and I get along. We love each other and all that. But a person who's 35 years old should have a full-time job. And believe me, I've been trying. I've been trying to have a career not just a temporary job. I've been trying to have a full-time job career that I can work for decades and retire on. I've been trying to get that kind of job for 20 years, and it has not worked out very well. So this is to remind everyone that do not underestimate me, because I am a hard worker, and the people who have seen me, my coworkers at the Hy-Vee stores I worked, and even those who remember me at my other job that I lost, they know I'm a hard worker. They know I showed up on time. They know I always put my best effort into it. But I have often been discounted because I'm weird looking, because of my autistic ways and how I have difficulty processing some information. But I always made up for it through my persistence and hard work, So I think things will get back on track with my life. But the simple fact of the matter is I've only worked for 2 companies in my entire life. And I'm a 35-year-old single virgin, A person who's a hard worker like me should have full-time employment. I should be given the opportunity to work full-time and have health insurance. That would be nice. It would be nice to have benefits like full-time employees, because if I had full-time employment, I would no longer have to worry about, well, will I be able to buy food? Or, well, will I be able to pay my bills? Or will I end up homeless because I can't pay my rent? I should not have to worry about that. I should be worried about other things. I would like to, what I would like? I'll tell you what I would like. I would like to work on my mental health. I would like to get into counseling, some kind of therapy for my emotional issues. And I do have emotional issues. Don't get me wrong. And I used to be in therapy. But what happened? I lost my Medicaid. And I haven't been able to be in therapy. So I've just been on my own with only my mother and a unicorn to talk to. So that's what's going on in my life. I'm going to keep fighting. Even though life is not fair, I'm going to keep fighting to improve my situation. But at the same time, the fact that I have only worked for 2 companies my whole life, and I have my entire work history memorized. I know all the jobs I've worked. I've been a courtesy clerk, a health market clerk, a floral clerk, and a general clerk in a warehouse job. I've done all these things. I've always been a clerk of some kind, and I've always done well. And so I know the right opportunity will present itself soon, because I've been looking and I've been trying. And I know I'll succeed. It's only a matter of time. But my work history is unique, because most people are not at their jobs very long. Most people don't work for the same company that long as a part-timer. It's just been an unfortunate series of events that have led to me living the life I have had. But I know I deserve better than that. And I do think that I set a good example, because, I do work hard and I try to make smart financial decisions. But life is pretty messed up, as we all know, in America with this economy the way it is. So I think that's all I wanted to say at the moment, but I'm actually feeling pretty good because things are looking hopeful. So I guess that's it for now. But if I think of anything else, I guess I will make another video. Thanks for listening.